All right, everybody, welcome back to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. I am, of course, your host, Josh Williams, followed here by
Ryan Murphy.
And I'm James Sheridan.
And thank you guys so much for joining us here today because we are excited and happy to bring to you our spoiler-heavy real-time review of the overall season of WandaVision, brought to you by Marvel Studios, which basically kicks off Phase 4. And man, did they kick it off. What an ending. I loved the overall season. And even when we'll talk about more, but man, I'm excited to talk about this. Before we get into this, though, guys, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you can receive more of our various content in the future. We got that part out of the way, gentlemen. Let's talk WandaVision. So who's all in it, Ryan, and who actually directed it?
Why are you gonna put this on? You always do this on me, and I'm like, oh shit, I need to.
Dude, you're better at the night. You know I can't say names.
I'm like, I need to bring
You're the walking IMDb, sir.
Yeah, you're the walking night. You should know all this stuff. Come on, man.
I need something. I still want to have something in front of me. Anyway, WandaVision is directed, I can tell you, by Matt Shakman. Showrunner was Jack Schaefer, who is a woman, by the way. I just feel the need to say that because her name is Jack.
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline, not Jackie, not Jacqueline. It's Jack, and
Cool.
It's a female.
Okay.
But Jack Schaefer is the showrunner. Matt Shakman directed it. It stars Elizabeth Olsen, of course, Paul Bettany, Catherine Hahn, Tiana Paris, Josh Stamberg, Kat Dennings, Randall Park, and Deborah Jo Rupp are kind of the, and of course, it's spoiler heavy. So Evan Peters, Emma Caulfield is also in it for the Buffy fans out there. So yeah, pretty good cast.
Very good cast.
Yeah.
And I like to actually, I don't know if you say it, but Deborah Jo Rupp, who's also in it, who's, you know her from the mom from
That 70
show. Pretty awesome.
Who, upon recent rewatches of that 70s show, quickly became my favorite character on that show. Because I'm at the age where I still don't like Red, and I still don't like what Donna's parents. And the kids are kind of driving me nuts. And then Kitty's stuck between these worlds, and she's like the only sensible character. And it's like, wow, she became my favorite very quickly. Anyway,
she's pretty cool. But yeah, Evan Peters in that, which I love the ending by explaining who he really is. Because going to this, I'm sure, just like you guys, there was a lot of people out there who had their theories. What's what, who is what's going to happen. Like I for one, really thought Mephisto was a part of this. Of course, he was not. And, everybody, just so you remember, guys, this is a spoiler review. So if you have not seen WandaVision, why are you here? Go back and watch it. It's on Disney Plus, and join us again.
Or just, hang around anyway, because
if you want to have everything spoiled for you, that's up to you.
I don't feel like they're missing much. I'm giving away my opinion, but
dude, I can't believe you didn't like it.
Well, let's talk about it.
You go ahead then.
My overall thoughts. This is kind of everything that was hyped up or that we thought was going to happen ended up not happening. Mephisto was not a part of it. Doctor Strange was not a part of it. Evan Peters, Quicksilver, turned out to not be the Flash from the Fox universe, which really must have disappointed.
Are we sure with that?
Yes, it was. His name is Ralph Boner, or Ralph Bonner, or whatever.
Hang on, we'll get to that.
Okay, we'll get to that. But, I mean, James was losing his damn mind. James was blowing up my phone, like, holy shit.
That's me too.
WandaVision, because when that happened, that was such a big thing, and for them to do that and then sort of renege on it is really kind of a low blow. But did they? Yes, they did, James. Yes, they did.
It was more of a play on a kind of because this show is built on illusions and misdirect. I mean,
but what is really the point of this show? What was really the story of this show? The story of the show, I mean, the main draw is that they're living sitcom lives and they get to parody sitcoms, but then there's a bigger story. There's something else really going on. And the something else really going on is that she built this life subconsciously to give herself an idyllic life. And I'm like,
it's a person going through their grieving process of losing everything.
But why? Yeah. But why did she need to create a sitcom? Like I want to have that. And
they established that in the second to last episode, third to last episode. They established that she has a childhood where the only safety she had as a child in a war-torn country was her family watching these sitcoms, these DVDs that her dad bought and sold.
I understand.
And the collection of those became, well, it comes back to what we keep
like
talking about
with
our nostalgia, is that it becomes a comfort for us. And it's a safe space for her, and it's somewhere that she has these happy memories tied to. And this is not long after the end of Endgame, which in her memory, because she didn't experience those 5 years, is not long after she lost vision. So she is still mourning that. She's still dealing with the consequences of that and the trauma of everything she's gone through. And this is her sort of, we already know that she's unbalanced and everything's unraveling, but we know that she is experiencing this because she's trying to cope. And that's why I love this season, is that, or this series, I guess, because I don't think we're going to get another season, but
No, we're not.
it's about her trauma, and it's about her struggling to deal with that, whether consciously or subconsciously, because there are some choices she makes and there's others that she doesn't make, but it all comes back to her trauma and everything that she suffered. And the sitcom is her way of coping.
Yeah.
I understand that, but to me, it just felt like, okay, if you wanted to have an idyllic life in suburbia with Vision, she could have literally built the house, resurrected Vision, and had an idyllic life in suburbia with Vision. And the sitcom things just seem to be such a big stretch, especially when she's already has neighbors and people with lives around her, and she has to recast them in other roles as other people with other lives. And I'm like, why is that necessary? So like Emma Caulfield in the finale walks up to her and says, I have a daughter. Can you please just let her out of her room? And that shows you that this person had her own life, was her own kind of neighbor, but she had to recast and rearrange her life to fit this narrative. And I just didn't realize
there's still some question as to how much of that was a conscious choice and how much of it was just her subconscious doing that for her, which, that's part of what led to the speculation that there was someone else at play manipulating things and controlling things, that it wasn't just Wanda doing these things, it's somebody else doing it to her. We find that that's not entirely true. It
was still her manipulating these people because it was still her voice in their heads. She thought they were giving them a better life too. Now, here's what I'll say about it is, it's still, even if she brought back Vision and had her own life in suburbia, it still wouldn't be a place just for them. Like, she created this world to help her get away from, because the real world has taken everything from her, the real world. So she created her own world in order to cope, in order to get to not just cope, but like, because she just was trying to run away from the real world. So she created this place to help her get away from that. And in turn, indirectly, she was ruining other people's lives. Now that scene where the people are charging in around her and like she was freaking out. She's like, no, I was trying to give you guys are happy, you guys, there's a good place. And she realized they're not. She's it's finally getting thrown in her face that she has messed up people's lives. And that's when she kind of freaks out. And that's when she realized, that's when she finally realizes even though she loves her children and loves Vision, she has to do the right thing and remove the hex. Otherwise, she's causing more detriment to these people's lives. And that's, to me, that was the most Shakespearean heartbreak of it, is they kind of got a cookie cutter ending where they defeat Agatha and Vision the real Vision goes away. But it was still heartbreaking because she did get some acceptance, like it's okay to let these people go, but it's still sad in the same way because she still lost everything.
Something that has to be said about trauma response is that a lot of it is subconscious. A lot of it's not things that you're doing rationally. It's not things that you are choosing to do. It's things that your mind is reverting to, especially when it's childhood trauma. It's stuff that you do because that is all you know. You have built these sort of patterns and these behaviors as a child to cope with things, and you continue doing those things as an adult. And that's a lot of what's going on with her. It's not just the sitcom stuff, but the sitcom stuff is her safe space. It's a lot of her not necessarily choosing to do things. It's just a response to what is happening, and her just trying to figure a way to survive and stay balanced and stay happy. And the only way she's ever been happy is been with Vision. Like, even with her brother, it was just constant strife. She was, either at war or joining a cause, fighting against war, or she was part of the Avengers, and it's just, constant fighting and battling. And then Vision was, the only hope she had. So part of like some part deep down in her wants to create the idyllic life with him because that's the only joy she's ever known. And I get it. I understand it completely. And I love that part. When that episode hit and they went through the entire backstory and explained everything that went on with her, and that, you know, Vision's body is basically destroyed and they can't bring it back to life, and that she's created, you know, a sort of, you know, I don't want to say a fake Vision, but like a sensory sort of illusion, I suppose.
She still created Vision, but it was just she said at the end, he was the memory of Vision that
we can get into a big debate over whether or not it was Vision or not, but that was my thoughts. You guys make a lot of good points. And I know that there was an episode where she's watching Malcolm in the Middle, and I
love that they did an episode centered around Malcolm in the Middle, because I feel like that's one of the like unsung sort of heroes of sitcom history.
But yeah, when they're watching Malcolm in the Middle and he says, "Is that man grievously injured?" and she says, "No, it's not that kind of show." I guess that is the like, she sees sitcoms as like a safe, like you said, a safe space. So you guys have actually managed to turn me a little bit into that direction, but still, I just felt a little uneventful. It felt a little bit lacking a kick at the end. So besides the sitcom angle, the whole idea behind the show is we want to show how much Wanda is growing in power in terms of where the characters are going. The whole point is to show that she's growing so much that she has this reality manipulation power. And that's going to factor into Doctor Strange too. And then an evil witch wants her power and she fights her and she doesn't, and she defeats the witch. But that ending didn't make any sense to me because she says, "I'll give you the role you wanted, the nosy neighbor," and then she destroys the hex. So there is no hex. So what the heck happened to Agatha? I
think since she can kind of control what isn't reality, I think that just goes to show that she doesn't necessarily need the hex to like a spatial hex to do that. She actually is able to just like, she got rid of the hex, but she's still able to keep Agatha in that state of just being a normal person. Now I could be wrong. They weren't as clear on that. I will give you that. They weren't that clear on the end, but just going based off of what I've gathered in her power and ability, that's what she did. Well, now you can't base things off of your guess. It's better if they kind of tell you for sure.
Well, remember Age of Ultron, when she was her power in that, when she wasn't doing the sort of like hex blasts that she was doing and throwing people around, her primary power was basically mind manipulation. That's why Hydra was using her, was to manipulate the Avengers and turn them against each other. She, manipulated Hulk into destroying a, entire South African city, and Tony had to go in with a suit to try and stop him. Mm-hmm. Like, mind manipulation has always been part of her power. So I can see if like they didn't explain it well enough, but I can see where she's, trapped.
So you're saying
Agatha in this sort of mind palace of like, Agatha knows she's,
but she didn't. Sorry,
so what became of her?
Yeah,
instead of just like that was a disappointing way to end it.
They could have explained that a little bit better, but from what I'm gathering from James is like, she had this mind manipulation, but now she's not only be able to manipulate their minds, but literally their physical form, because she changed her into this like just suburbia woman, and it wasn't in her little outfit or whatever. But this definitely has a lot more implications going forward for Doctor Strange too, because now, she has the Darkhold, which then I found was crazy, because when I first saw the book, I was like, there's no way that's the Darkhold, because it didn't look like the Darkhold from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Turns out it is. They just, I guess Kevin Feige just retconned the entire Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He might go, oh, no, they're in their own universe, whatever. Kind of how like Loki is now. He's in his own little pocket strain of universe. Who knows? But basically that's completely retconned. And so the new Darkhold is now in the MCU. And that end credit scene is what I freaked out about the most. That was like, she pretty much astro, because everybody was like, everybody was just kind of like, oh, how is she able to astral project? But who knows? Maybe she's able to do so. So we'll see. I mean, the fact that she's able to astral project now without even having to learn the spell by any means, because, going through the doctor, because that's obviously what she was doing. Mm-hmm. Like anybody who thought, oh, she duplicated herself. No, she was astral projecting, because you don't see the bottom of herself when she was looking through the Darkhold book. So I find that pretty fascinating. The other part I found fascinating was at the end was how Agatha was talking about how in the Darkhold it says that the Scarlet Witch, her powers far exceed the Sorcerer Supreme, which is
Mhm.
Doctor Strange. Now, I don't know if that means like right now where she's at in her time is more powerful than Doctor Strange, or that she could be, because she did say, Agatha, I mean, tell me what you guys think here with this theory, with this, what I'm about to say is, I think what she was saying is she could be more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, because Agatha did say that she has all the power, but lacks the knowledge. And that's where the Sorcerer Supreme, he has all the knowledge. You know what I mean? So what do you think it's at the point where she's like the more powerful than him now, or that she could be? What did you think she meant by that?
I mean, the comics canon has established that she's more powerful than Doctor Strange. Like Doctor Strange is the most powerful of the mystics, but she's had, for a decade and a half now, the ability to like completely rewrite reality, like without mind stones or infinity stones or any sort of like device or any sort of training. She's just naturally able to do that, and the show's established that as the Scarlet Witch, she has power without training. Like she has there's an innateness to her ability that other witches have to kind of work for and train for and build up towards, and she just has that. So I think that she is sort of a raw weapon, sort of unrefined. So even if she can't beat Doctor Strange now because Doctor Strange has the superior experience and the superior sort of ability currently, I think that she has the raw power that if she tried even just like 10% more as she is now, she could probably put him in his place. But she's going to need him to be able to balance the power, because I think that the power is going to continue to deteriorate her mental state.
Yeah, because she's been sitting there reading that Darkhold, looks like, for a while.
And it looks like when she's reading it, it looks visually like she's being corrupted.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know the Darkhold in and out, but my understanding is that it is a corrupting force kind of thing. It's full on dark side Sith kind of holocron type device thing. So like I can see that she's falling further and further into trying to understand her power, but in trying to understand her power, she's slipping deeper into a very bad place, and she's going to need Doctor Strange to help her. But in terms of your question, I definitely think that her power will far exceed, if it doesn't already, Strange's power. Because Strange isn't even the strongest of the Sorcerer Supremes. There have been others who have been stronger than him.
Well, she had to struggle to fight Agatha in this show. So I think the point, though, is that when it comes time to be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, that she will pose a very significant threat to him, and that she's not going to be an outright antagonist. As we've read in the trades and stuff like that, that the story will basically be him debating of whether or not he should just kill her, but he doesn't want to kill her because she's not a bad person.
Yeah.
And he's trying to save her. And
her fighting Agatha, she was always handicapped by something. Like Agatha has her kids, or Agatha's doing this, or Agatha's doing that. But when she actually unleashed herself and went full on Agatha didn't stand a chance.
There's that. But
I mean, sorry, I wanted to just real quick. Now, in the comics, that may be the case where Doctor Strange isn't the best of all the Sorcerer Supreme, but here in the MCU, according to the
Ancient One,
thank you. She even states it in Endgame. Doctor Strange is meant to be the best of all of us, meaning the best of Sorcerer Supremes. So I don't know. We'll see how that how that all goes. But I just going based off what's been stated in the MCU, that's where we're going with that. But Ryan, I'm sorry I cut you off. What were you saying?
Well, we got a little bit off track. I think the initial idea was for us to give our thoughts on the show overall. And my thoughts was, I'm rather disappointed. It was sort of uneventful for me. Didn't really give off as much, didn't give as much hype at the end. Didn't get me as hyped up. Didn't lead into Doctor Strange 2 as much as I thought it would. Didn't have as many bombshells. It was just sort of like, she does this hex, an evil sorceress tries to steal her power. She beats her. And yeah, I mean, I understand if people really like it, but it was. I'm not saying I hated it, but it just was a little bit of a letdown to me. But what are you guys just sort of overall thoughts on the show?
Go ahead, James, and I'll go to me.
Your point actually leads into the major point I wanted to make about this, and that's the dangers of fan speculation. Which, don't get me wrong, fan speculation is fun. I love doing it. That's basically what we're doing here, is trying to understand how this fits into the future of the MCU based on what little knowledge we actually have. But I do think that there's a point where fans create these theories in their heads, and when a show doesn't live up to those ideas, they hold it against the show or the movie. And I think that this is a case of, like, the show never promised these things. It never promised the Fantastic Four. It never promised mutants. It never promised Doctor Strange. The one place it did promise something, and I think this was a misstep on their behalf, was that the girl who played Monica Rambeau
Okay.
made a statement early on-ish, maybe like a few episodes in, that this show would have a bombshell on par with what happened at the end of Mandalorian season 2, which, if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it for you because you want to see that as it is. But for anyone who has seen it, you know how big that moment is.
Yeah.
And everybody was kind of expecting something like that to happen, especially in the way it happened at Mandalorian, where it happened at the very last minute of the show. Like, that was the end of the season.
Yeah.
And for WandaVision, the bombshell happened at the end of the end of episode 5 in a 9-episode series. So it's like basically the halfway point, a little past the halfway point. And I kind of understand why they did it, because they need time to kind of sit. The bombshell being that Evan Peters, the Fox X-Men version of Quicksilver, appears in the MCU. And I understand why they did it then, because you need time with this character to kind of play with Wanda's sort of understanding of what's going on, and to, like, stir up some of those memories and everything, so that we get that flashback episode eventually. We need time with that, and we need time with this character to kind of be invested in what's going on. And then it does feel like a bit of a letdown that he does turn out to be the Steve Boner, but or Ralph Boner, sorry. But going back to fan speculation, one of the theories I'm hearing is that we also don't know. Jimmy Woo shows up, and Jimmy Woo is looking for a witness, someone who's in witness protection, that we never find out who that is.
Yeah, we don't.
The theory I'm hearing, and I'm kind of liking, which, again, don't hold it against the show if this isn't true, is that Ralph is Quicksilver from the Fox universe, got pulled over by Agatha, or got pulled over somehow. Maybe during the snap, something happened. Who knows? He is the one that Jimmy Woo is looking for.
Okay.
And that they've given him this sort of false identity as Ralph Boner, and then he just happens to cross paths with Agatha. He is still actually MCU Quicksilver. How that works is not really explained. Different people have different ideas, but the idea being that there's still wiggle room in there for him to actually be who we think he is. Even if he isn't, the show never promised that he really was.
It kind of did.
The entire no, it didn't, because the entire show is about manipulation and about, reality bending, and it was a question whether or not he would be.
When he showed up, it was like you were freaking the fuck out, because that was what the show.
I was freaking out because of the implications of what it could be, not what it actually was, because we didn't know what it was.
We got Mandarin.
Mandarin.
I like the Mandarin thing. So
they play with our expectations. They promised us one thing, and they shut us down. Then again, we are getting the real Mandarin here pretty soon, so maybe but I think the what was it, the astrophysicist friend that everyone thought, like, it's Reed Richards, and it's like it turned out to be nobody. And
we don't know who it is. They didn't say who it was.
I thought it turned out to be that one woman was all.
No, that was a colonel. That wasn't the aerospace engineer. She was there on behalf of the aerospace engineer. They never said who the aerospace engineer is.
That's fair.
Well, I'm still hoping that I'm still hoping that Reed Richards is in the negative zone from the '60s.
That's what you're hoping.
I'm gonna die on this how's the saying go?
Die on that hill.
I'm dying on this hill.
The hill you're dying on. Yep.
But no, I just that to me was that's basically how I feel about the show. It was just like that was a big letdown for me. Was that they really showed that like look, it's Quicksilver. Like no, it's not. We got you. So
and I'm okay with it how they did it. I mean, it was kind of like a meta way of bringing him in but not bringing him in, like Evan Peters himself, to kind of like misdirect people. But I mean, is what it is. Who knows what will happen in the future. Overall, I loved this series. I think I'm gonna stay serious. I don't think they're gonna have another one, like James said. I don't think they should either. This was just a journey about a person going through the stages of grief and how to handle that. And did she make all the best decisions in that grief? No, not by any means. It even shows at the end how like she was walking out of town and people are still giving her that look of like, how dare you hold me against my will, kind of thing. But overall, I mean, I'll admit the first episodes, I'm like, all right, it's okay, but like, what's the thing here? But then as they slowly started creeping in more plot points and more storyline, it got even better. And even then, like, I remember when it got to the point, like the last 2 episodes, I rewatched the whole show, and knowing what then to rewatch it again, it was like the first few episodes are actually much better than the first time viewing them, because the first time you're just like, oh, okay, cool. But then knowing and watching back in hindsight, you're just like, wow, this is really well written. And that's the biggest part for me. I love the narratively, how well it's written, and how still like they bring in all these other characters. They introduce, Monica Rambeau or Photon or Spectre, whatever her name's going to be. And Kat Dennings comes in and all these other people, but it's still focused on Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, and they're wanting to be a family, especially Elizabeth Olsen. And then just seeing all the seeing all the little moments as things go on. A lot of the comedic moments are really great. And one of some of the things you guys brought up already that I felt were some of the downsides of it. One of the other, there were still a few things that I left completely unanswered, and you guys brought up quite a few. The other one I will bring up is and I actually thought this was going to be a plot device used later on in the show. Because if you guys remember when that beekeeper or that agent from Sword came out and she just goes, no. And then boom, she rewinds everything and he's just fucking gone. And it's like, what happened to him? And I honestly thought when she did that no thing, that was like, oh, that's going to be something that's probably going to be used later on, which would be, really smart. Kind of uses like a plot device. But then we don't know even what happens to the guy. What did she do to him? Did she, assimilate him into the hex and he's somebody else? Or did she just low joke just out of existence? No, you're not here anymore, kind of thing. That was one of the things I wish they would have touched up on. And the other thing that I don't like, if you guys help me out here, if you guys know for sure, and anybody listening in, jump in the comments and let me know for sure as well. So do you guys think the commercials were just for us, the viewers, or was people like Kat Dennings, were they seeing it on TV as well? Because I thought even the commercials are going to play a factor, and I honestly thought that the actor, the 2 people that are always in the commercials, were going to end up being like Wanda's parents or something like that, and she was just using them in commercials and stuff like that. But then I was like, well, I don't ever know or remember seeing when Kat Dennings would watch I'll just use her character name, Darcy, would watch the show, if she even saw those commercials, or I don't know.
I'm assuming the part of the format is that those were part of, those commercial breaks were part of it, but I think those were probably, if I had to guess, I think those were the bits about what's her name manipulating things. Agatha manipulating things. She's not controlling things, but she's definitely pushing buttons and pushing events and things to be here and there. We see that with Pietro showing up when he does, and how he's manipulating Wanda and pushing buttons. And to me, those are her I'm not sure why she would, but like if there was anything, I think I think it's probably her manipulating things.
Mm.
I also think that they might be a little bit more of like a Watchmen kind of thing where if you read the book of Watchmen or see sort of, I don't remember which version of the movie it was, but they have this entire sort of subplot where this kid's reading a comic book about a guy
Yeah.
trapped on an island, and the entire thing's a metaphor for events that are happening in the story.
Mm.
And I think those are metaphors for things that are happening, especially when you watch the one where the kid's on the island
Magic part. Yeah, that was really good.
eating the or trying to open the I guess it's yogurt.
Magic candy or something like that, or magic food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's sort of like dying.
Yeah.
I've heard people say that is basically, we understand now that is supposed to be Wanda on the island. She's trapped, and that she's slowly being siphoned. Her power is slowly being siphoned off by Agatha,
Okay.
and
yeah.
that's her being like that's her sort of like withering away.
Interesting.
Well,
Now I don't know if they have any meaning beyond that, if they actually are supposed to have in-universe meaning.
Yeah.
But that's my takeaway from it, is that it's
Yeah. Right.
Well, I that's one thing, but also the other big thing. So there's a few plot points that are left sort of to the imagination, and that we'll hopefully see played out. One is where is White Vision? Where did he run off to? And is he the? I mean, is the version that Wanda created? So also, okay. So where's White Vision? Okay. And the other one is that Wanda's children are still alive somewhere. Where are they? And if they're still alive, then the version of Vision she created is still alive, which was heavily hinted at. Even that they said we'll say hello again. So that's all there, and I think that's all going to lead into Doctor Strange too. Now, the interesting thing about the Quicksilver twist is I thought the Quicksilver twist was really interesting because we know that Doctor Strange 2 has to do with the multiverse. So it would make perfect sense for her to crack into the multiverse and take Evan Peters out of the Fox universe, which is exactly why it doesn't make sense that he's not that Quicksilver, although you're saying he might be. But how is she?
I'm saying there's the possibility. I'm not saying he is.
But now the point. My point is, now that we realize that wasn't at least what they have revealed to us, what was going on, is how is she going to crack into the multiverse? And I think it's going to have something to do with her trying to get her children back. We know they didn't just introduce the children just to kill them off. We know that that the kids, the whole reason they're introduced in the first place is to set up for the Young Avengers, because Catherine Newton is playing Stature in Ant-Man 3, and Haley Steinfeld is playing Kate Bishop in Hawkeye. They're doing all these things to sort of bring in the. I'm
hearing rumors that Patriot's going to be in
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So so there's a whole lot of theories about where is this all going to take us in the future, and so
as far as the kids go, my theory, again, I don't know why I'm still sticking to this, but it's because now that she has the Darkhold is why I'm even more convinced about this. Is she ends up finding the kids somewhere in the not dimension, but a reality or a universe that involves Mephisto of some kind, and like maybe he is holding those kids.
Is he the one in the comics who I remember there was a villain? I don't remember the story very well, but I do remember there was a villain that had them captured and sort of like integrated into his body at one point and was manipulating them, but I can't remember for the life of me which villain that was.
I can't remember either. Anybody listening, jump in the comments and let us know if you know for sure.
Yeah.
But I just have a feeling Mephisto's going to play a role in this somehow, and then she's going to.
As long as he stays away from Peter, I'll be fine.
Yeah, and she's literally going to break the multiverse to get to them, because she even said at the end, family's forever, and there's nothing that's going to stop her from, since she heard her sons at the end of that end credit scene, nothing's probably going to stop her now from getting her kids back. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. Now, as far as Vision goes, I don't think, he is technically still Vision because he has Vision's memories, but I kind of think of it how I think he's going to end up being I think this Vision, the White Vision, is going to view himself as something new. Kind of like he has Vision's memories, but he's in his mind, he is something new and different. Kind of how like you take your hard drive out of your one computer, you get a brand new computer and put your old hard drive or attach your old hard drive into the new computer. It's
Well, I was
still you
thinking
still
it
have
sort of.
those memories, but it's still something new, and I think he's going to view himself as such.
I was thinking it would probably be something along the lines of I think his name was Tubi or something. The android that they were using after Data sacrificed himself in Star Trek.
Oh,
Well,
no.
okay.
Where it's Data, but it's not Data, kind of
B4.
thing. Like it's physically Vision,
Yeah.
and he has the memories now, but not. He doesn't have context or emotional connection to any of those.
Now
So
I'm
he's a
just
kind of a blank slate at this point.
yeah. Now I'm just speculating because in the comics that's kind of what happens with White Vision, like because he has the memories of old Vision and he kind of talks to his kids and even Wanda about that and he explains them like I have the memories of Vision but I'm not him anymore. I'm something new and
Mhm.
different. I just think that's from what I've gathered, that's probably what the route they're going to take. Now I could be wrong, but since he kind of ran off and did his own thing, he's probably ran off to go figure himself out,
Mhm.
kind of thing. So otherwise, if he was Vision, he would have stayed and helped Wanda. Like if he felt like he was Vision, he would have stayed and helped Wanda. So that's my thought. But other than that, I mean, I loved seeing Randall Park back, Jimmy Woo. He was great. I mean, he was great in Ant-Man. What I love too is even with these small, teeny tiny characters, they're still developing them.
Yeah.
Because if you remember at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, like
I'm glad
he's
you
like, "How
mentioned
did you
this.
do the card trick? How did you do this?" And like he shows up, boom, Jimmy Woo, like Agent Woo, and this is I'm like, "Hey, you learned your magic."
But
That's
the
good
best
for
part
you.
about that is they didn't call to attention to it.
No, yeah,
It's only something that if you paid attention to what was going on in the two Ant-Man films and his interactions with Scott, if you remembered that,
yeah,
that moment is even better. But it's something that you don't have to know to enjoy that moment. And if you miss that moment, you don't lose anything from the show. It's just that's part of what I love about the way Marvel approaches these characters is that they can throw in these characters and they can throw in these moments, but the moments don't have to exist for
Yeah.
you to enjoy it. They're just sort of like an added layer for the people who remember these details.
right,
But nothing's lost if you don't remember it.
right.
And I love that they brought back both Jimmy Woo and Darcy because Darcy was my favorite part of the first two
And I love that
Thor
she's Dr.
films.
Darcy now. I
Yeah,
love
now
that.
she's an astrophysicist.
Yeah, that was
And like
great.
there's character development there, and she's still just as like quirky and sassy. And
I've heard stuff online, like chatter online. I would love to see this, but I'd love to see like a comedy X-Files type thing where Jimmy Woo and Darcy team up to do like these outlandish, cases in the world kind of
Hmm.
thing. I think that'd be like a little buddy cop thing. That'd be fun.
there was a
But,
guy on Twitter who was pitching something very similar to that, where it was a comedic sort of X-Files type thing where Jimmy Woo is off on like
Yeah, that's
weekly
what I was.
adventures. And I don't remember whatever came of it, but apparently someone from Marvel reached out to him and he says, "There's hope in terms of this." Doesn't say that it's happening,
Yeah, that's
just
cool.
that, there's a conversation happening. So who knows? It could happen. I
I'd be
would love
down
to
for
see
it.
that. I would watch the hell out of that because, I mean, as Randall Park could chew scenery all day long and I'd be happy.
Hmm.
That man is just brilliant, and just having him back is one of my favorite things about this show. Having Kat Dennings back
Yep.
as Darcy was one of my favorite things about the show. I absolutely loved because I'm big into mental health and trauma and
Yep.
all of that stuff. I love that entire arc for Wanda because she does unfortunately have a lot of baggage, probably more so than a lot of people. And her character arc, if you know anything from the comics, is dealing with a lot of trauma and a lot of like a very terrible mental breakdown that leads to her power sort of like going out of control and being a very terrible consequence for a lot of people, which is where I think a lot of people thought this was going to go. And something that kind of is lingering, they never really landed on it, but I felt like they were hinting towards it, was the question of mutants, which is something that we've been asking since they acquired Fox, how they're going to integrate mutants into this, and everybody thought this was going to be the way. And then when we saw like the scans of Monica Rambeau after she'd gone through the hex twice and saw that like it had majorly, changed her DNA. I think a lot of people were kind of expecting that to become something, and then Quicksilver shows up and maybe he's planting the idea of mutants in Wanda's head. Something that I do think that was like none of that ever came to anything, but something I do think is interesting that I do think will lead to bigger questions about the mutants is Hayward, who
Mhm.
not a great villain, not a very terribly interesting
Yeah.
villain, but I do think they're establishing him as a sort of striker type character,
Yeah.
as a sort of mutant hating kind of person who is going to be a thorn in the side of anyone who is different in the
And
Marvel
not just
universe.
mutants, but just supers in general.
Yeah.
Like he just hates, like because he hates what happened with the
Well,
snap
yeah, but
and all that stuff.
that is a big part of what mutants are and why mutants are such a great metaphor within the Marvel universe and why people want them so badly in this is because, you know, they represent the marginalized,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's, you know, through the civil rights movement or, you know, LGBTQ plus individuals and whatnot, or just, you know, losers in high school, people who got beat up because they were different,
Mm-hmm.
people who are, you know, cast to the edge because they don't fit into society norms. um I think that maybe Hayward isn't necessarily that, but I do like that they're kind of planting those seeds of
Mm-hmm.
people who are kind of have that prejudice based solely on them being different, not just because they're supers, because, you know, we've had um William Hurt,
Oh,
Yeah.
General
Ross.
General
Ross.
Ross hating the Avengers because, you know, they're supers, but it's like that's a little different from them being mutants. Like, this is, I hate you because you were born this way or because this happened to you for reasons that um are beyond your control. Whereas, you know, the Avengers are making the choice to be Avengers, to be part of this organization that has caused problems, which I argue they haven't, but that's a whole other thing. There was one more thing I wanted to circle back on was the format of the show. I don't think people are talking about how genius this actually is. I think the sitcom format is actually something that they did very well, not just in the presentation, but I think there's a lot of little things in there that they did that I thought were actually very, very interesting, well done. So, like the first episode, we have, you know, the 1950s format. There's a very heavy influence of like I Love Lucy and Dick Van Dyke, with Vision just like going through the Ottoman thing, rather than tripping over it, which was always Dick Van Dyke's thing. So they're playing on tropes. And then you've got the second episode, which is very clearly Bewitched,
Mm-hmm.
which fits into the whole Wanda being Scarlet Witch thing. 70s, you're getting into the Brady Bunch, Partridge Family style of show.
Mhm.
Um, 4 is kind of a weird one because it takes place entirely with outside of the hex, and I'm not really sure what the format of that one is.
That's the title of the episode is "We Interrupt This Program," so it's they're
Yeah,
very
but
much taking a
like,
break from the format, and then the next one's in the '80s. So
well, that's but I'll continue my sort of list here and then explain why 4 is kind of an outlier for me. Um, 5, we get into like the late 80s, early 90s sort of Family Ties, Full House, which was a fun little thing that they were doing allusions to Full House because
Yeah.
if you don't know, Elizabeth Olsen is the younger sister of Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen,
No.
who were, you know, the youngest daughter on Full House. So throwing those little ties in there, I thought were a fun little addition. You know, a little.
I'm just kidding.
Some people are not.
Some
as
people
old
may
as
not
we are.
know. I mean,
some people may have
looks
seriously
so
just
much
gone,
like-
"What the?"
what the?
That makes so much sense. She does look like them.
And then you get to the 6th episode, and it's very clearly Malcolm in the Middle, which again I love because I thought that was a very underrated sitcom.
Yeah, that's '90s.
And it very
so.
of its time, very sort of like that 2000 sort of like edginess kind of thing, and you know, like where families weren't, you know, the clean cut, and it's like we're showing all the problems within a family. You get to the 2010s with episode 7, and it's more sort of Modern Family with a little bit of The Office kind of going on.
Modern. I
And
got
then
a lot of
8
Modern Family vibes.
Yeah, it's very Modern Family. 8, you get to the flashback episode, which to me is what cemented this theory in my head. That's the bottle episode.
The bottle episode.
Classic sitcom trope of doing a bottle episode where you're not actually producing any new content. You're flashing back to everything that's already happened in previous episodes.
Oh.
Where they sit down on the couch and remember that time you went to the park and you crashed your bike into the tree? And it's like Wanda's going through all of these events. We're getting the flashback bottle episode. And then the 9th episode is obviously the series finale, which is, you know, the big explosive battle, everything comes to a head. We tie up all these loose points, and anything that's not loose, or not anything that's not tied up, leads into the next series. So everything not only stems from a specific style or era or show itself, they're very much playing on sitcom tropes and styles. Not just like specifically with like I Love Lucy or Modern Family or Malcolm in the Middle, but like again, the bottle episode is a very classic sitcom trope. And of course the series finale is ubiquitous, 24, just all of them, the big cliffhanger and the big, shock ending, Picard is captured by the Borg. Like it's a classic thing. That's why 4 is kind of flummoxing me, because it doesn't fit into, I can't find what that episode is supposed to be in terms of the trope outside of being outside of the hex.
Yeah, it is outside the hex, and I think 4, 8, and 9 are all outside the sitcom. I mean, not to discredit what you said, but I mean they're not trying to be. Not every episode has to be like fitting a specific trope. So I think 4
no, but I think 8 and 9 do fit the tropes though, and that's what I'm saying is that I feel like 4 is the outlier in terms of that, because while the other ones are very specific eras of sitcom and very specific shows that they're emulating, the entire series is borrowing in other ways from sitcoms as a whole. But yeah, I don't know, I thought that was just a fun way of like, I love those kinds of the approach to that kind of thought of like how they structure shows and how they structure the storytelling aspect and how they bring in those ideas and tropes, and playing with that sort of, not even for the wall breaking, but like again going back to Community, where like part of my love of Community is that they play with those tropes, and they're calling attention to those tropes because they love those tropes. And again, I love that this series is doing that, and it just, I don't know.
So one of the, like, we'll kind of wrap up here a little bit. I mean, unless we got other, there's probably a lot more we could probably easily talk about if you guys want to. I'm perfectly okay with that. But one of the things I definitely wanted to bring up was I loved the, not only the end credit scene, but kind of you're setting up Monica Rambeau with Captain Marvel too, because she's definitely going to be in it. And she's also, I think,
looks like she's going to be in Secret Invasion now. Yeah,
she's going to be in Secret Invasion as well. So I think I'm glad to see, like, when they talked about, when they had that little debate in the We Interrupt This program episode, like, who, Wanda could have easily beaten Thanos. Oh yeah, but and I know when they brought up Captain Marvel, she kind of was very cold and standoffish about it, and like, hey, let's change the subject, which was like kind of very interesting to me, because it kind of, I guess since she was gone for so long, pretty much our whole childhood, and then she knew she came back but never actually went to see them. Maybe there's a little bit of resentment there to Monica, and so that would be kind of exciting to see when she finally comes face to face with Captain Marvel. So that's kind of a good setup there for them, between them two. And then lastly, she sees a scroll at the very end, and I'm pretty sure they're even talking about Nick Fury. Hey, a friend of Captain Marvel's wants to see you, and I think it's either him, Nick Fury, or the main guy, the lead scroll. Yeah, the lead scroll. I don't know which one. I would assume it's Nick Fury, because he's on the, like you saw at the end of Spider-Man, he's on the ship, and
I do wonder if they're hedging their bets that maybe they can't get him back for that necessarily, so they're leaving it kind of vague in case they have to rely on Ben Mendelsohn for that. But
possibly,
either way, I'll be fine with that, because Ben Mendelsohn,
I'm sure
can chew the scenery as well. So
Samuel Jackson will come back. I mean, he'll be back. But I mean, everybody needs to remember that this WandaVision takes place before Spider-Man. Spider-Man takes place 8 months after Endgame. So in the realm of timeline, we got to remember that, this takes place and then it's Spider-Man. So we'll see how
Spider-Man Far From Home, you mean, not Spider-Man. What's the new title again?
No Way Home.
No Way Home, that's it.
Yeah, Far From Home. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're correct. Far From Home takes place 8 months after Endgame, and this is 3 days after Endgame. So this is
9 days.
9 days.
Actually, yeah, I tried to figure this out. I think the opening is about 9 days after 10 days, because I think it was 9 days that she went to 9 days later that she went to go see the guys at Sword, and then the next day is when she created the Hex, and then the hex itself lasts maybe a little more than a week. So it's basically like 10 to maybe 18 days after Endgame. So very shortly after it. So yeah, and that's you bring up an interesting point oh shoot, I forgot what I was gonna say now. Where is this going to what the hell was I gonna say? I don't know. I don't have anything to say.
But it also brings up like where's now with Falcon and Winter Soldier come out, because it's obvious now that they're not going, because they used to go in chronological order. What was released was what was happening at that time.
Well,
But
yes, kind of no.
At first in phase 2, they definitely did, but
there's still a broken timeline. We can talk all about the Marvel broken timeline.
Yeah, we can, because they kind of did it when Spider-Man, the first one, came out. They kind of completely broke up the timeline after that.
Well, even with Iron Man 2 taking place, at the same time as Incredible Hulk, that's kind of broken up because Incredible Hulk comes before it in the sequence of films. But
yeah.
Well, anyway. what I was gonna say is I actually remember just now. This sets up a nice little. What I think Marvel should officially do is release not only a timeline of the films, but like a date by date thing, because this says that the end of the blip, the reverse snap, Hulk snap, took place basically in late September or early October, because if this is 9 days later, well, I guess it's in the middle of October then, because if this is 9 days later and it's Halloween in this episode, and that makes sense for Spider-Man. Did Spider-Man Far From Home said it was officially 8 months later? Because that's when they're starting their summer vacation, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Boom!
Yeah.
Mind blown. Yeah. So we'll see if Falcon and the Winter Soldier actually fits somewhere in there. So because that would place this in October to November of 2023, and Spider-Man is in the beginning of the summer of 2024. Yep. I wonder also if they're going to try and like slow down like their timelines so that they can catch up eventually, so that they're just releasing in real time again.
Yeah, because now they're ahead of us in the future. So
yeah, exactly.
They'll probably do so, because I mean Doctor Strange is not slated to come out until next year. So I have a feeling they will slowly slow it down. But I guess the other thing, one of the last things I'll bring up that I really loved was we don't know the rest of the slates by any means. I still believe firmly after the second to last episode that Elizabeth Olsen should get a Emmy nomination for her performance. I feel like it can if they push hard enough, because it was Emmy worthy. I mean, nobody can deny that the acting in that second to last episode was heart-wrenching and raw and real. And she just did so good in her performance in that second to last episode that I think an Emmy nomination, if they push hard enough, could happen. Now, I don't think she'll win by any means, but just the fact that getting something, kind of how like The Mandalorian got nominated for Golden Globe. Nobody knew I was going to win, but it was still just nice to see the fact that it did. Mm-hmm. So just seeing that I think is well deserved. Okay. But all right, guys, let's go ahead and just sort of wrap up our last minute thoughts of what kind of things can kind of give our scores. Also, we didn't give our scores at the beginning. Mm-hmm. But give us your overall thoughts, your score, and then what you're looking forward to now in the future as far as Wanda is concerned, or even just the MCU overall, given what WandaVision has given us. Ryan, why don't you go ahead?
I'm probably going to give it a 7 out of 10, and that might be a little bit generous, because I don't know. It just let me down so hard with the Quicksilver thing, and I thought the ending just kind of fell flat. And even I'm not alone in that. I think I've seen at least one other review online that said that the last episode was kind of clunky and it just sort of it felt anticlimactic. But and also, this is Marvel, so it's sort of always one thing leading into another. So I think I was expecting a little bit more of a lead into future stuff, and it left a lot of stuff mysterious. But I am looking forward to seeing how this leads into Doctor Strange 2. What's going to happen with the twins, with Vision, with White Vision? Is Vision going to be full on resurrected, brought back as a character? If so, how's that going to play out? How the twins going to come in and make the Young Avengers? And what's going to happen with Wanda? Is it going to be kind of like a situation of I'm not really well versed on the comics since the whole Avengers disassembled, where she kind of wrecked the world and House of M and everything. But she can only be so powerful and without being contained in some way. So I'm wondering if she's going to have to be depowered in the future if she wants to continue to exist as a superhero, because certainly if it gets to a point where she's, really OP, overpowered, she can't be that effective as a character, as a superhero. So just seeing how maybe the Doctor Strange will end with him kind of stripping away a lot of her power. I don't know, but it's be interesting to see where it goes. So that's my thoughts.
And Doctor Strange's gonna have Sam Raimi directing it, so that's kind of, even though I'm sad to see Scott Derrickson go, Sam Raimi coming in is kind of exciting. James?
Yeah, I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. I do think that there are some things that it didn't quite develop all the way, and I think there are some things that it kind of left a little too open. I think that I wish they kind of had the backbone to kind of say, like, these are the things that it is. In terms, like, as we were saying, with like them leaving with Nick Fury or Photon or Monica Rambeau leaving to go see the friend, like, I think they just say who it is. Just say who it is. In the instance of the aerospace engineer, just say who it is. Like, don't leave us hanging on those things. I think there's still potential for the Quicksilver boner character.
There's still potential.
Children. We're complete children. We're complete children.
It's his name. His name is Mr. Boner. What do you want from me?
I think it's supposed to be pronounced Bonner, but whatever.
Anyway, but she said boner in the show, so
yeah. I know.
I don't think that's. Anyway, I was happy with that. I'm not going to hold it against the show, and I do think that a lot of people who are giving it very negative reviews are holding it against the show based on their expectations, not based on what the show actually promised. It did fail to deliver on a few things that it did promise, but I do think that it had a very strong sort of concept that it stuck with from beginning to end, with the sitcom sort of thing and the very TV-esque trope. I very much love Wanda's character development in this, or character degradation, as you might say. Because I do think that she's deteriorating mentally. And while this was supposed to be sort of therapy for her, I think that it wasn't the therapy that she needed. I think it was her kind of falling onto poor habits, which is very common with addiction and mental illness. And that this leading into Doctor Strange is going to be more of a doctor, and less of a Strange, in trying to help her psyche sort of thing. Yeah. Because she does need help. And I think that's how she's going to kind of temper her powers. She's not going to be stripped of her powers or kind of slightly depowered or like reduced in power. I think that she's going to have to learn how to hone her power and how to be able to control her power, but also kind of fend off the sort of Raven-esque evils that come with her power, especially as she's delving into the Darkhold. And I'm very excited to see where that goes. I'm very excited to see how she gets involved with opening the multiverse as we understand it, and what the implications of that are. I really wish that they had have dived a little bits into mutants in this. They chose not to. As far as we know, maybe they did. We don't know. But for the purposes of this story, we don't get any confirmation on mutants. We don't get any confirmation on any sort of X-Men yet. No Fantastic Four yet, which I thought was a long shot to begin with anyway, but it would be kind of cool to see. I'm interested to see where Monica goes from this, because her relationship with Carol Danvers is going to be interesting. Her relationship with Nick Fury and the Skrulls is going to be interesting, because obviously, there's familiar history there. So that'll be fascinating. White Vision, not really interested in, but we'll see where that goes, just because I think like they've kind of, shot their wad on Vision and his story's kind of wrapped and done. It's disappointing he's out of it so quickly.
He's still going to be like Paul Bettany's still going to be in a new Vision.
He's still going to be there, but it's not going to be the same character or person. And if they end up reverting to the same character or person, it's going to be I think it'll cheapen his death a little bit. So I don't think they're going to go that direction.
That's why when
I was
brought
kind of
up
hoping that would be Ultron, but that's not where they're going either. Which in a way I'm kind of glad with, because we've already done the Ultron thing, but Ultron has a tendency to come back. So I mean, he does. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I know.
But he
No,
does.
that's why I was laughing. Is he's totally like he's.
I do want to see what they're going to do with Billy and Tommy. Everyone keeps saying Young Avengers. I think it's going to be a team outside of the scope of the Young Avengers. It's going to include Young Avengers, but I don't know it's necessarily going to be the Young Avengers itself, because we're forgetting the most important young hero in this story so far, Peter Parker, who's not a Young Avenger. But if they don't include him on the team, I'll be pissed, because he's very clearly, the lead teen superhero in the Marvel in the MCU, in the Marvel universe. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, I love seeing Jimmy Woo and Darcy again. I know I've touched on that, but like that was such a big part of why, especially the fourth episode was so enjoyable, was just the two of them, and then like everything they did. I would love to see a series with them.
that'd be fun.
And yeah, I think we need to take this as a lesson about, fan speculation is fun. Speculate all you want. I'm not going to limit your ability to speculate, but don't hold it against the show when it doesn't live up to your theories and what you think it should be. Enjoy it for what it is. Try and figure out what they're going to do, because that's what we do with these shows, but don't get mad when it's not exactly what you thought it would be. I think that's a lesson that a lot of people need to learn from this. Personally, I don't know.
Hey,
that's the lesson to be taken.
Yep. And so that's what I remember. We talked about it a little bit a couple episodes ago with Peter Parker and the Young Avengers. If I had to speculate and theorize if they're going to do a Young Avengers film, Kang would obviously play a factor in that, and like do what he did either there's a cartoon that he did it in where he wiped out all the Avengers and it was up to the Young Avengers to bring them back, which would be the Young Avengers plus Peter Parker, because Peter Parker was in that episode, he was the leader of them. Kind of leading them to get the Avengers back, which that would be cool if they did it that way. That would be actually pretty freaking sweet. But anyways, so back to the show. I mean, I really love this show. I'm probably going to give it 8.5, maybe more if I choose to watch it. Not choose. I will watch it again because it's only 30. And that was one of my other kind of, I wish they were longer. I understand they went with the sitcom formula being only a half hour long. I understand. But every time an episode would end, I would like be left with wanting so much more.
Yeah.
And like 45 minutes, just give me 45 minutes and I'm happy. But it's okay. It's fine. I'm actually makes me wonder if they're going to do the exact same like half hour for episode, even for like Falcon and Winter Soldier. I hope not. I want those to be 45 minutes.
I've heard they're going to be
long.
40 minutes.
They're going to be, Kevin Feige said they want to make 6 hours altogether. So with this, because they were shorter, it ended up equaling about 6 hours, and all the other shows are going to be 6 episodes long, and they're going to be 6 hours. So
okay, good, because that was one of the things I was like, man, I really want some meat to the bones for Falcon Winter Soldier, because that's going to be more story based and going to kind of going back to Winter Soldier, more espionage, more action thriller kind of thing. That would be that's what I'm guessing it's going to be. But anyway, and Elizabeth Olsen was just a powerhouse in her performance this time. She really upped her game. As far as her performance goes in this, more so than she did before. And so did Paul Bettany. He did a really, really, really great job. I loved a lot of the little moments of comedic. I loved the moments in here that added comedy. All of a sudden, it twists on its head effectively and went like suspenseful and, sometimes horror. And I love it when a show can organically do that. Like be able to do it with like change the tone and theme on a dime, but it make it work. Because sometimes doesn't work. Sometimes it works really horribly, but it worked really well, and that goes to the performances of the character, especially Catherine Hahn with her ability. Like there was moments where she'd be like laughing and stuff, but you'd see in her eyes where she was crying at the same time, or like showing some different emotions. Takes good, good acting skills to do such. And I actually was okay with a lot of the misdirects, because I actually thought one of the characters who was Dot, I thought she was going to be something that she wasn't.
What did you think she was gonna be, like Emma Frost?
I thought she was gonna be possibly another witch that was gonna play a factor.
Okay.
She did give off very Emma Frost vibes to me.
No, I wasn't saying. I wasn't thinking.
I felt she was giving off. I didn't think she was going to be Emma Frost. I just thought she had very Emma Frost vibes.
Oh, yeah. That was you. Then I was thinking of.
So I didn't think she was gonna. I just thought maybe she'd be like another witch that was undercover or under, something like that. But it ended up being not the case, and that was kind of the trend throughout the thing. But I was okay with that. It kept you guessing. It kept you going. There's still a lot of unanswered questions that are gonna move forward. I don't know if they'll be addressed or not. We'll see. I don't know. A lot of things like who the engineer was, because you're right, we don't get to know who that actually was. I don't think it was the lieutenant. That was the one.
I'm
We still
actually
don't know who
intrigued.
the witness was.
Yeah, the witness is now that you mentioned it, that has Marvel never really does anything for no reason. So it's kind of like if you ever heard Chekhov's, is it Chekhov's gun?
Chekhov's gun.
Yeah. So
Gun on the
I think
mantle.
that might be a Chekhov's gun situation where it's if they mentioned it, it's for a reason.
Exactly. So we'll see how that all plays out in the future. It might be another series. I do think White Vision will be back in Doctor Strange 2. I think they're still going to continue on with that thread. They would have to. But not having Wanda in it and not having Vision will feel out of place because they are kind of two of the same coin. They're together. What a lot of stuff, whether we like it or not, and I like it. Great finale. I mean, great action. I loved a lot of the action. It was very. This whole show was movie quality, which is great.
Yeah.
It was movie quality. Like even though it was a TV show, it was still movie quality, and that's what you want. That's what we were hoping for, and that's what we got as far as these new Marvel shows are being concerned. Because there's a big difference between this and what we saw on like Agents of Shield or even Netflix for that matter. This was very much Marvel Studios quality, and it definitely set a good bar, in my opinion, for the Marvel TV shows moving forward. Like I didn't have much expectations going to this, and I ended up being extremely surprised and very happy. The narrative of loss was played very well, and I'm glad that was the focal point. And I was hoping for something big like Doctor Strange or somebody like that. But at the end of the day, after it didn't happen, I was also at the end of it, I was still happy that they didn't do it almost because they could have tugged on that generic thread of getting people going, oh my god, kind of like what Luke Skywalker did with
Well, I guess you spoiled
Mandalorian.
the
I guess so. If you haven't seen that by now, what the fuck is wrong with you? But anyway, I mean, like they could have gone with something generic like that, but they chose to still stick with the narrative and stick with the story of Wanda. Focus being Wanda, because I felt like adding in someone like Doctor Strange would have taken away from what we got at the end, that emotional moment at the end with saying goodbye to her kids and then saying goodbye to Vision at the end. That was a very powerful moment. I feel like adding someone in there like Doctor Strange would have taken away from that. And they still stuck with their guns and stuck with their story. Because remember one thing, guys, everybody listening, and you guys, I know you guys know too, Kevin Feige, his focus is story first. He doesn't give a shit about characters. Story always comes first, and this proved that. So I am so happy we got the show. I was pleasantly surprised. I'll definitely watch it again. But we got 2 weeks, and we're getting Falcon and Winter Soldier. Oh God, it's
my
gonna be
boys
great.
are back.
I know, and after that, we're getting Loki. If I'm remembering that right,
Loki,
Yeah.
Black Widow.
I'm so excited for it. And then when have
I'll watch it.
they given Black Widow an official release date now?
It's May 7th, but I don't think it's going to make May 7th.
I hope so.
It's not. I mean, let's just be honest with you. Here we are. We're not going to have. This can turn into a COVID discussion real fast, but we're not going to have full vaccines until like everyone vaccinated and herd immunity until July, and then maybe we can start the discussion. And then that's just in the United States. I know, James, you were talking to us today about how Canada's not even going to have it then. So
yeah, the rollout here is very slow. We're looking like October before it's going to be released to the general public, which, how long is it going to take for people to actually get the vaccine at that point?
So
probably 6 months at least after that. So
because Kevin Feige wants it to be released in theaters. Like he's not wanting some hybrid Disney and theaters thing. He wants it in theaters, and he's fighting that fight. So.
And I'm cool with that because while I have no dog in the fight of Black Widow, there are other films that are coming up that are on the roster that keep getting moved, and I don't want to see them on Disney Plus. I want to see them in theater. And yeah, I don't care for the Wonder Woman Mulan model that they've tried, and if that works for you, fine. But like, I still want my theater experience. There's nothing like seeing a movie in the theater for the first time, and I don't want to be robbed of that. So
Yeah, and I'm gonna talk about it in my review of I watched Rhea in The Last Dragon
Right. Yeah.
yesterday, and I'll talk about it in my review, and we'll rack up the show, folks. I just want to say this real fast, and because you brought up
in theory, we will wrap up this show. In theory,
we will, but I mean, he brought up something I just
this
kind of
show
want to
will
bring
end
up.
at some point.
He brought up the the idea of the movie thing, and it's true. Like I saw Tenet in theaters. I saw a lot of the other movies in theaters while the pandemic was happening. But I remember when I saw Tenet, I was the only one in the theater. Well, I did still got to see it in the theater. When I saw Raya, there was families going to it. Like there was actually sort of a line, and I don't know. Like I actually at the end of the movie, I got teary eyed of like kind of tears of joy because I finally after a year or so I felt the movie going experience, and it kind of gave me an emotional upheaval in a weird way. And it's like kids running around enjoying having fun watching the movie and yelling and screaming. You know what I mean? Just kind of being kids and cheering on them film, and like parents saying, "Oh, that was really good." It gave me such an emotional reaction that it was kind of like I got tears of joy almost because I finally after a year and a half I felt that movie going experience, and it was really really nice to have. But anyway, folks, I'll end it there, guys. More importantly, we'll wrap this up here. But what did you think of WandaVision? Everybody here listening, leave your comments in the section below. Let us know your thoughts. Give us your positive, negatives, and your score out of 10. Also, if you like what you watched, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you can receive more of our various content in the future. And that's all we have for today. Again, I'm Josh Williams.
I'm Ryan Murphy.
I'm James Sheridan.
And thank you for keeping it real
With ReelTime.
Good night.